Is the acceleration of vaccination campaigns boosting air travel? Has the EU digital COVID certificate helped to reactivate tourism in Europe? And is there anything we can learn from what happened in the travel sector in July and August of this year? In this short video, I'll try to give some answers to these questions using ForwardKeys' extensive databases and expertise on air travel. We'll also talk about the reactivation of Central America, the difficult recovery of Spain, the rise of Egypt, and the upcoming Chinese Golden Week. And for those of you hungry for more insights, we've even produced a special report with additional content. Contact us to receive a free copy at webinars@forwardkeys.com or visit the website if you want to know more about the company and our data solutions. Without further ado, let's examine where the world is positioned for global travel post-summer. Minus 69%, this is the disappointing evolution of international arrivals in July and August compared with 2019. This may appear a bit depressing, but we're seeing slow improvements as the year-to-date is minus 80%. Some clear signs of reactivation can be found in the Americas, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Only in APAC the travel pulse stays flat. The top 10 most resilient destinations for international travel still looks very much like a Caribbean and Mexican affair, with 7 out of 10 from this part of the world. Only 3 destinations are in Europe: Heraklion and Thessaloniki in Greece, and Antalya in Turkey. All destinations in this top 10 reveal a strong appeal of sun and sea experiences. You may think that this is a standard pattern at this time of the year, but let's check how this ranking looked like pre-pandemic. Surprise! Only 2 destinations could clearly be labeled as sun and sea: Palma de Mallorca and Barcelona. Most destinations in our 2019 rankings were vibrant urban metropolises powered by a growing interest in cultural tourism. Clearly, cities have had a hard time bouncing back, and international visitors nowadays have a much stronger preference for wide beaches in the open air than crowded streets and museums. Let's now turn our attention to the Americas, with a special focus on Latin America and the Caribbean, where interesting trends are at play. When looking at the evolution of international tourism in this part of the world, the first thing you'll notice are the wild discrepancies between the different countries in the region. While some destinations are very close to full recovery, others receive virtually no tourists. This makes the minus 30% average for this region quite meaningless. If you've already attended previous editions of our Capa live presentations, you'll not be surprised to see Mexico and the Caribbean getting very close to pre-pandemic levels in terms of international arrivals. This is down to 3 key factors. 1, the fact that most of these destinations have remained consistently open for business, enabling visitors to plan. 2, their proximity with the US outbound market, which has been rebounding strongly since the start of the vaccination campaigns. And 3, the appeal of sun and sea experiences, which we've already mentioned. At the other end of the spectrum, we have South America, where heavy travel restrictions are still in place. In this part of the world, international arrivals are still 70% down on 2019 levels. The recovery prospects will stay bleak unless governments decide to reopen ahead of the Southern Hemisphere summer. To me, the most interesting development we've seen in the region of the past 2 months is the rebound of Central America. It seems to be slowly catching up with the Caribbean. In July and August, international arrivals were only down by 23%, compared with minus 70% year-to-date. Quite a difference. Let's have a closer look at the individual performances of countries in this region. The first excellent piece of news is that 2 countries have fully recovered and even booked significant growth compared with 2019: El Salvador and Belize. I believe that one of the factors explaining the rebounds of El Salvador is that it communicated early on its openness to vaccinated passengers. As early as March, the government announced that PCR tests would no longer be required and that a simple proof of vaccination would do to enter the country. It seems that this initiative had positive effects a few months down the road. As to Belize, a first-class beach destination, it's benefiting from the growing interest in sun and sea tourism we've already discussed. This is what was also driving the recovery of neighboring Honduras, by the way. Costa Rica, with its focus on nature tourism, is also getting close to 2019 levels. The one country that is still seriously lagging is Panama, a destination with a strong focus on urban tourism, not very popular these days, and a hub for the region, not popular either, as people prefer to take direct flights. Let's be honest, Europe's performances this summer was disappointing. It is true that there was a certain level of reactivation of international travel, but it remained modest and never really got up to speed after the month of June. What makes this particularly bitter for the travel sector is that it seems the season could have been much better had the lessons from the summer of 2020 been learned. We're only talking about 2 things here. 1, an early communication from the destinations regarding the rules of the game this summer, so that travelers can plan ahead. 2, stability over the summer regarding travel restrictions. We saw very little of both, which made international travel to and within Europe a bit of a gamble. And most people decided to stay close from home, which boosted domestic travel and trips to the neighboring country. Let's compare the results of individual destinations with the European average in grey on this chart. Best in class this summer were Greece, who communicated early on its reopening and benefited of being the first mover on the market. Turkey also overperformed thanks to a strong position on the Russian market, which faced a limited choice of beach destinations close from home and willing to welcome Russian visitors. The performances of France, Italy and Germany were average or below average, plagued by changing travel restrictions and the inability to bounce back on some of their key intercontinental markets like the US or China. If US, Chinese or even Russian visitors are missing in Europe, it's going to be very difficult for the countries that were highly dependent on these markets to compensate for these large volumes. I'd like to finish here with the case of Spain, which is quite singular. The country made a good start. It communicated rather early on its reopening and was particularly welcoming to UK visitors as it didn't even require a COVID test from them. But then, in July, things turned sour. Within a very short period, Germany and France sent strong negative signals to their nationals, discouraging them from booking their holidays in Spain. Germany added Spain as a risk area at the beginning of July, and a representative from the French government advised his fellow countrymen not to travel to Spain, which led shortly after to a change in test requirements for travelers returning from this country. The result is that the strong rebound that Spain had experienced since the end of April came to a brutal halt. A sad story indeed, and a reminder of the fact that governments can make or break recovery trends. Let's stay with Spain for a moment to highlight a key trend for European tourism this summer: the strength of domestic tourism. In the case of Spain, domestic tourism almost fully recovered in July and August, and Here again, sun and sea destinations were the big winners. As you can see on this table, which shows the most resilient Spanish destinations for domestic travel, all top positions are trusted by islands from the Canary or Balearic archipelagos. It seems that nothing beats big open skies and the vast blue sea now. Let's now move to Africa and the Middle East, where we see how war and peace continue to affect travel trends, COVID or not. Let's start with the big picture, which shows an unstable recovery pattern with sudden increases and sharp drops. Quite clearly, Egypt and Jordan are the top performers in the region. To understand the success of Egypt, we need to go back to 2015 when a Russian plane was brought down by a bomb in Egypt, killing 224 people. As a result, flights from Russia to Hurghada and Sharm el-Sheikh were suspended, and they only resumed this year. As we can see here, the sudden influx of Russian visitors has given Egypt a real boost. As to Jordan, the country started a cautious reopening in May, first for travelers from Saudi Arabia, and then expanded to other countries, securing a steady flow of new bookings. The sad news this summer comes from Ethiopia, where the escalation of war has put an end to a very encouraging recovery trend. While the country was performing way above average since the beginning of the year, we can see a deceleration in June, followed by a sharp drop in July. This is hard on Ethiopia and Ethiopian Airlines, which was until very recently an inspiring African success story. And at ForwardKeys, we certainly hope that peace and prosperity will come back soon to this country. Let's finish this overview with the United Arab Emirates, which have registered average performance since the beginning of the year. One of the factors negatively affecting the UAE's performance was its inability to tap into the UK, one of its key source markets. At the end of July, the UK eased travel restrictions for visitors returning from the UAE, and this immediately led to a very impressive increase in bookings. Without further changes in travel restrictions, we are confident that the UAE will reap the benefits of this situation, as the appetite to travel from UK visitors remains. Pretty much everyone across the travel sector is anxiously waiting for the Chinese market to resume international travel. Let's be clear, this is not happening yet, but we're starting to see some movement linked to Chinese students flying ahead of the start of the academic year. We're seeing a significant rebound of one-way tickets for these destinations that are popular among Chinese studying abroad, such as the US, the UK, and Canada. This is encouraging, but this positive trend is bound to be limited in time due to its very nature. On a less positive note, we're seeing the strong impact of the latest COVID outbreak on domestic travel. Following a pattern that has now become all too familiar since the beginning of the pandemic, the new wave of COVID cases at the end of July has been immediately followed by a strong dip in early August. This puts an end to a stretch of 5 months of consecutive growth compared with 2019. This is not the first time it happens. We've seen this earlier this year around the Lunar New Year, and domestic travel bounced back after the outbreak was under control. We see no reason why this should not be the case when this outbreak is over. A direct consequence of the latest wave of COVID cases is that the travel outlook for the Golden Week has deteriorated badly. For the record, the Golden Week is that period ranging from the 1st to the 7th of October, which is normally peak season for Chinese travel. At the end of July, bookings for domestic travel were up by 29%. 1 month later, they are down by 63%. This is a very bad piece of news indeed, but all is not lost, as we expect a lot of last-minute bookings, provided the pandemic is under control. As you can see, The pace of recovery varies from country to country, even within the same region. At this stage, vaccination campaigns and travel facilitators like the EU Digital COVID Certificate have a limited impact on recovery. Early announcements and clearer, non-changing travel restrictions would make a vast difference for many destinations at the moment. Take note from Greece and the Caribbean. Keeping your pulse on all the developments is made easier when you have reliable data on hand, such as from ForwardKeys, as it is updated daily. Reach out to us if you'd like more visibility on traveler movements, big or small. Well, that's all from me today. Thanks for tuning in. We'd love to hear your feedback and thoughts on our presentation. Contact us via webinars@forwardkeys.com and connect on LinkedIn.